I have wanted to do a video on proper range attire for some time, but I've just never gotten around to doing it, probably because I fully intend to burn myself in today's video for your entertainment purposes. So without further ado, let's start with the really bad stuff. The projectile, as in what happens to the projectile after it leaves the muzzle of your gun. When we're talking about potential hazards from the perspective of the shooter, normally when we're thinking about projectiles, we're thinking about high velocity fragmentation. So you're shooting a target that is designed to defeat the bullet, not the other way around, so that bullet breaks up, and depending on the range that you're standing at, it may come back on you. So we want to wear protection that keeps that fragmentation from getting on and in us. And you might also think of this in terms of if you're shooting a target that is designed to be defeated by bullets like a piece of cardboard or something like that, that there may be something behind the target like a rock or a concrete block or something like that that you may not be aware of that can cause that bullet to fragment. The second concern that we concern ourselves with when it comes to projectiles is secondary projectiles. So every bullet leaves with a particular amount of kinetic energy, and when it slows down, it does so by dumping that energy into something else. Now, oftentimes, that ends up being the earth, and the earth is really heavy, so because of that, we don't really see a whole lot. But say, for instance, you're shooting on a gravel range top, and you dump one into the range surface, the gravel can be kicked up by that projectile and have sufficient velocity to do some damage to you. So you want to protect yourself against those kind of things. And normally when we're talking about protecting ourselves from those sort of things, we're talking about safety glasses. So you need yourself a good set of safety glasses. And notice I use the term good safety glasses, not necessarily expensive safety glasses. For instance, if you look at this is my helmet that I use for night vision work. And on the back of that is a set of safety glasses. And they're just a set of cheapies, but they're good safety glasses. And what makes up a good set of safety glasses? Well, you'll notice that this set of safety glasses covers the entire orbit. So mainly I'm talking to my ladies here. I really appreciate those cute little reading glasses that you got. They make you look like a foxy librarian. I much appreciate that, but they're completely inappropriate for the range. So you want the glass or plastic or whatever it is to completely cover the orbit of your eye. So the whole socket, if you will. The second thing that you want is side shield protection. So a set of aviators isn't going to cut it. I've been pictured on ranges wearing aviators before. Do as I say, not as I do. They're inappropriate for any range environment that is greater than one. So it'll become a little bit more apparent why we need side shields when we get a little bit farther in the discussion, but just know that they also need side protection. Brass, as in the stuff that comes out of the gun after you discharge it. This stuff is hard, sharp, and familiar to most of you, hot. Now, as far as the heat is concerned, most brass is completely harmless. Pistol brass will give you less than a first-degree burn. Intermediate rifle brass will give you a first-degree burn. Full-powered rifle brass can give you a second-degree burn. Let's go to the range and demonstrate this. I'm not looking forward to this part of the video. Can we all agree that this, the pit of your elbow, is a relatively soft spot on your body? And as far as soft spots on the body are concerned that are readily accessible and usable on YouTube, I think this is a pretty good one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to discharge a couple rounds. I'm going to pick up the hot piece of brass and I'm just going to take it and crush it right in the crook of my elbow there as a demonstration. So what we have here is 9mm ammunition, round right out of the box, into the magazine. And this is an MP5 clone. This is a Zenith ZF5, excuse me. Full video out on this one. And because it's a 9-inch barrel, this is probably like worst case scenario for your 9mm brass. So I'm gonna walk over here ever so slightly so you guys can see where the brass lands. It has stopped burning. And all we have here is basically some soot from where it burned me. Continuing on, now this is going to be our rifle representation. We have 223 Remington here. M85 NP SBR. here we go. I'm gonna walk over here and do the exact same thing. And it has stopped burning. Yeah, I mean, no difference. No marks, no nothing. And I mean, maybe a little bit of singed hair there. If this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll go back and do full powered rifle brass. Now, I don't advocate that you go out and burn yourself with brass to prepare for this sort of thing. It's gonna happen anyway, eventually. Trust me. Well, I think what we can do though is focus on prevention of this. You have an autonomic response to get away from hot things. If you grab hold of a burner, you don't grab hold of it and go, oh, that's hot. I should probably let go of that. Your brain says, get away from it, and then you deal with the consequences afterwards. I've had plenty of guns pointed at me by people that don't know or haven't thought about or prepared themselves for the possibility of this and did not respond accordingly. So after that autonomic response, everything else is within your control and you can handle it. Chances are, by the time you realize that you're getting burned, any of the damage that is being done has already been done. And you flailing about isn't going to really help the situation. It can only really make it worse. Now, this is twice in one video that I've spoken directly to my ladies. I'm not trying to be a bully, but I'm speaking directly to you, ladies. I greatly appreciate your willingness to overtly display your memories. But please, when you're on the range, put a real shirt on, one that goes all the way up to the neck. If you want to go a step further, a collar's the next one up over top of that shirt. You can also get something that rolls down if you are sensitive to that sort of thing. We want to keep that brass from going down the front because I'll just put it like this. 100% of the loaded machine guns that I've had pointed at my face were by some basic white girl who had her plastic bits sizzling. Brass can indeed get in your shoe. Ask me how I know. The ideal situation to prevent this would be, of course, long pants with high top boots bloused with the pants bloused over top. Let's be real though. That's not going to happen. I don't even wear long pants to every range session. Particularly if they're short or if they're in the summertime. So the best thing that you can do is to have a pair of closed-toed shoes that are tied tight. The last one that a lot of people haven't fully considered that I have personally experienced is that one. And it's pretty hard not to react to that guy. The best way to prevent that is simply to do one of these. Now they do make the hats that have the cutouts that allow the glasses to get even tighter up against the hat. I don't really think that's necessary because I don't know about you, but when I mount my rifle, I tip my head a fair amount, and in doing so, if I were to tip my head, then the bill gets in my way and I can't see my sights. So I don't know that it's necessary to get a special hat. A ball cap is more than sufficient. A boonie hat is better, but then you look like a domestic tourist like this. Create an overhang here that prevents, it's high enough up that there's shielding. The only thing about this is, you got your night vision mount, so the night vision's in the way, and depending on how you have your night vision configured, there's a plastic piece that can give you a side shield. I still wear eye protection with my night vision. That occurs from this angle, so you need a side shield. And we mentioned that earlier, the wraparound eye protection with the side shield, but that also prevents that sort of thing. Now, where on earth did I put those ads on my channel? Oh, well, that's embarrassing. Sorry about that, guys. One of the companies that has stepped in to help us recoup some of the lost ad revenue from the YouTube shenanigans is PowerTech, listed on our Linktree account that is in the description box down below, as well as our full affiliates page, where you guys can take advantage of good deals from companies that we trust. Thanks. Let's shift gears to hearing protection for a second. Now, I don't care what it is that you are currently using, every single person should have some foamies. They're not expensive. go get them. Go get a tube of them. I bought a tube years ago, and I almost never use them, but when I need them, I need them. The foamy is very simple. It's an all-encompassing piece of hearing protection. You just take the item, you squish it, you reach around your head, you pull up on your earlobe, and you stick the thing in there, and you hold it until it expands. Tap it every once in a while and make sure it's seated properly, and it's excellent hearing protection. The step up from that is a jelly, and they're going to be roughly the same thing, but they'll have a stem that's rigid, and it'll be a plastic gel type thing that allows you to just stick it right in your ear and pull it out. It's much more user-friendly. One of those two things you need to have regardless of what else you got. The step up from that is muffs. Now there's dead muffs and electronic muffs. If you're currently using dead muffs, throw them away, go get yourself an electronic hearing protection. You're missing a whole lot by not having electronic hearing protection. If you don't want the electronic inputs, just turn them off. But if you got more than one person on the range with you, electronic hearing protection is almost essential, because you're missing communication. And communication is life when it comes to high velocity projectiles. You want to make sure that you can keep communication with everybody around you. Now, you want to make sure that that hearing protection hears in stereo, not mono. What that'll sound like when you put them on is you won't be able to tell the direction it comes in if they hear in mono. Just like you're trying to hear something underwater, your ears are calibrated in air, and water sound travels faster, so you can't really tell where they're coming from. When you've got muffs on and you're reliant on the electronic hearing protection to supply the sound to you, if they don't hear independently of each other, then you won't be able to tell if the person's behind you, to your right, or to your left. So now that's going to be commensurate with the price usually, but you shouldn't have to spend more than 50, 60 bucks on a quality set of hearing protection. You don't need to go all the way up to something like these Comtacs if you don't want to. These are exceptionally expensive. As a note, my rules are anything above 300 Winchester Magnum, I double up, which means I put either a pair of jellies or a pair of foamies underneath of my hearing protection. And that's just to prevent that extra Magnum from doing any damage. The last thing I want to touch on today that is poo-pooed by a lot of people is chemical exposure, and there are things that you can do to help this. This is a real problem, particularly for people that shoot a whole lot. When you discharge a firearm, you produce GSR, gunshot residue, and it is an organic and a heavy metal contamination that you can be poisoned by. And here's the thing. The first thing that you can do is stop touching your frickin' face. It's one of the reasons I wear a beard. I'm a face-touching thinker. So when I go to touch my face, I get the tactile feedback of the hair. And it's like, dude, stop touching your face. That's better than touching the physical oil layer of your skin, because then you've contaminated the oil layer and now it's sitting against your skin for hours at a time. Don't get me wrong, just discharging the firearms enough to contaminate that layer, but physically touching it is much worse. So that's one of the reasons I wear a beard, other than the fact that my face is funny and I'd prefer to cover it up. So these people didn't pay me a dime, but this is what I use right here, the D-Wipe. This is a lead and heavy metal removal. It's good for skin and surfaces. As a note, I don't drink from any container that isn't sealable while I'm on the range. I don't eat anything while I'm on the range. I have a set of gloves that are set aside specifically for handling targets. And then you should also take one of these wipes and not only use it on your skin before you wash your hands and things like that, but you should also consider periodically going around and hitting things like your steering wheel, your gear shift, the doors of your vehicle, and your house. And then the big one that everybody forgets about is this thing.